We are live. All right.
All right.
Thank you very much for joining me, Justin Andrews, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, sir.
All right. I got to tell you, this has been like on my mind all day, just in the back of my head, and I'm actually really nervous about this because this is my first time doing this. So.
Well, don't be nervous. I promise I don't bite.
All right, perfect. I want to start by learning a little bit more about your history, your past. Could you tell me? Well, first, let's start with me asking what inspired you to become a professional wrestler.
You got to go way, way, way back, like many, many years, into the 1980s. So when I was a kid, we used to go to South Dakota. I'm originally from Montana. And we used to drive all the way across the state, go to South Dakota to visit my mom's side of the family. So her grandpa and grandma, so my great-grandpa and great-grandma, called them, Gramps and Graham, had all these wrestling action figures. I mean, Gramps used to watch wrestling religiously. Whatever else was going on, he was in his easy chair in the living room. When Graham was cooking up dinner for, all 75 grandchildren and great-grandchildren she had, Gramps would be watching wrestling. And I can remember Gramps wasn't like a really talkative or emotive sort of fellow, but he would get so passionate watching wrestling, and that always stuck with me. And when I was a little kid, I liked to act. I was in school plays and things like that, and that wrestling thing was always just kind of in the back of my mind. So, Gramps is long since passed away. He passed away when I was young, but that's who really inspired me to get into the business and to make it happen. Just seeing that those guys on that TV screen could get a reaction out of my great-grandfather was enough for me to be like, that's something that I have to do. Not want to do, that's something I have to do.
There was a call to action there, something that you had to be a part of.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's awesome. So let's fast forward a little bit. When you decided to, when you did decide that you had to do it, where did you get your start? Like, where are you from, and who did you train with?
Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to answer that question in a couple parts. So when I was in high school was sort of the tail end of the Attitude Era. WCW closed when I was a senior in high school. And another friend and myself, we decided that instead of going to college, we were going to go down to OVW, Ohio Valley Wrestling, or Heartland Wrestling. I can't remember which one it was at the time. It was right between the transition between WWS at the time, between Heartland Wrestling Association and Ohio Valley. Either way, we were saving up our money and we were going to do this. We were training super hard. We had bulked up quite a bit our senior years. We were about the same height. We were 18 years old and we were both over 200 pounds. And just really working hard. We were like, this is what we're going to do. We had all the information. At that time, you had to send away by mail to Les Thatcher, Danny Hawk. So some super old school, guys' arena. And then the trainers would be like, all right, well, we'll take your money and you go down there and train. And, my family was on board with it. They're pretty supportive. And then 9/11 happened.
Oh.
So I turned 18 exactly 2 weeks before 9/11. I was senior in high school. As soon as that happened, I ran out and joined the United States Marine Corps. And my friend, Nick, went into the Army. He never got into the wrestling business. I did. So I joined the Marine Corps instead of going down and doing that or going to college. So Um, fast forward into the Marines, and my first deployment wasn't a combat deployment. We went to Japan. And I got to know some Japanese wrestlers. Now, for me, again, I was 19 at the time. I knew of Japanese wrestling, and I just assumed that every Japanese wrestler was like a pure recent star, even though I'd never heard of these guys. And little did I know that these guys were not like reputable people in the business. Because one, we weren't on mainland Japan, we were in Okinawa. And I thought this was my big Japanese break. And really it wasn't. They just wanted to like beat people up. Didn't really learn anything from those guys, whose names I won't mention. We got done in Okinawa and went to Hawaii. There was a promotion at the time. It's no longer business, and the people who run it are no longer part of the business. So I also won't mention their names because they were my first trainers, so I show them that respect, but they didn't train me the right way. So I'm not going to, enough said about that. Anyway,
Right.
So I started training there. And I had a bunch of matches there in Hawaii. I was sort of like the evil white guy to there because most of the wrestlers were natives. Then when I got out of the Marine Corps, I went back to the States, started wrestling in the Pacific Northwest, and the guys there were like, dude, you fucking suck.
Oh.
Can I swear? I hope so. I swear a lot.
No, you're
and,
totally fine.
okay. And those guys are like, dude, you fucking suck. Like, I know that you've trained. I've seen your resume. I've seen your tape, but you guys didn't train you the right way. Then I do even more training.
Well, now...
Then, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Now, when you say they didn't train you the right way, what exactly does that mean? I'm sorry. That's one that just popped in my head.
Yeah, So I'm not going to pull back too many curtains in the business. Some things, it's like magic, right? If you're watching a magician, you know that he's not really levitating or he's not really sawing the lady in half. But the illusion is you don't know how he's doing it. You know it's not real, but it's still a trick. And that's how wrestling is. And I was never taught how to do the trick part at first. And worse than that, you can't just go into a ring and know how to fall. You can't go into the ring and you need to learn how to move in there. You need to learn how to count your steps. You need to learn the cadence of a match. You need to learn how to protect yourself. And more importantly, you need to learn how to protect your opponents. It's no secret in this modern day and age, we're not trying to kill each other out there. And I would rather slip off the top rope and break my own neck than knock someone else's tooth out. You never want to hurt your opponent. And these were the things that I wasn't taught. I wasn't taught basic locker room etiquette. I wasn't taught, the respect to the business. These guys who took my money, they taught me how to take their moves and how to do 2 or 3 moves of my own. And I did that for several months and thought I was a professional wrestler. And I wasn't. So, after going to Hawaii and after wrestling in the Pacific Northwest now, some great people there, some great promoters there. They were very honest with me, and they helped me out quite a bit and made me realize that I sucked. Because if they had lied to me and said, okay, you're good, I would have kept wrestling. And eventually something bad would happen. So I respect those promoters for telling me and being honest. But they saw I was an athletic guy and I had potential, so they didn't blow me off. Went down and wrestled in San Francisco. I was wrestling a bit. I'd been a civilian for about a year, and I felt I had more to accomplish in the military. So I joined the Army. So I had done 4 years in the Marines, and then joined the Army. Shipped me off to the East Coast in Fort Drum, and I started training again. So by now I was on technically my 4th training school, but this was the first one where I actually trained. Got to wrestle all over the East Coast. Totally different style than what I was used to. Learning from many different opponents and many different trainers. Then I got sent to Colorado, and in the springs, at the time, there's a promotion called Asylum Championship Wrestling, and a guy by the name of Elias Castaneda, who was one of the trainers, kind of took me under his wing, and has been my mentor ever since in the business. Anytime we're on a show together, he makes sure to critique every little thing in my match. And there's a lot of people in this business who will give you feedback, and you kind of blow them off. You're like, okay, like, that's a decent idea, like, appreciate it. But anything Elias says, I take to heart. So if I had to pinpoint my best trainer, it would be him. But he was certainly not my only trainer.
Okay, all right. And Elias, has he worked with Primos, like with Joe, and is this the Elias that I think it is?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It is.
All right.
Yeah. So he and I go back. It's almost 8 years now. So, yeah, it is that Elias. Yes, I know.
Man,
because when people see him from Primos, they think bad guy Elias, and he is in the ring. He's a very bad guy. But outside the ring, he's extremely knowledgeable and someone I value having in the locker room, and I value giving me feedback. And someone I know I can trust. You know, if I do something that sucks, he's going to let me know. If I get some praise from him, I know I did something really well.
Nice. I've had a couple of interactions with him as well, and he seems like a really, really awesome dude. So we talked a little bit about the promotions that you have worked for. Are there any promotions like other than of course we know that you've worked for Primos, that you've worked for CSW, and you've talked a little bit about your history there. Are there any other promotions that you have worked for, or that you've worked a match for?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So many promotions that are no longer in Colorado I've worked for. I just came back to New Era. I had worked New Era 2010, 2011 when they were first starting up, 2012, somewhere around there. So I just came back to them, so I'm back with New Era. I worked for Asylum Championship Wrestling, as I mentioned, no longer business. Rocky Mountain Championship Wrestling is no longer business. United Wrestling Association, no longer business. OMLL, which was a Lucha Libre promotion, worked for them. IWS, worked for them. And those are just the ones in Colorado.
Right.
So I worked at top of Texas, down in Texas. Oh, on the East Coast, geez. World Professional Wrestling, Ultimate Wrestling, Diamond Championship Wrestling, ICWF, I don't even remember what it stands for, Mountain Wrestling Association. I'm missing a couple from the East Coast.
There's just so many.
Let's see. Yeah, I worked down in California, worked in Hawaii. Those for promotions that no longer exist. On the West Coast, again, promotions that no longer exist. Pinnacle Pro Wrestling, Pro Wrestling Beyond, Tulip Championship Wrestling. Oh boy, yeah, I've wrestled in a lot of promotions.
All over the United
States.
States.
27 or 28 promotions.
My God.
Yeah.
Is that just because you've been moving around a lot because of
yeah.
background?
So being in the military for so long, for so many years on active duty, I was able to move around and go to a lot of different territories where in this business, a lot of guys don't get to go to those territories for financial reasons. They just don't have the money to be bouncing around all over the country. And luckily, Uncle Sam paid for me to move around a lot.
So you get to go a lot of places. Is there like a YouTube channel that the listeners can go to catch some of your matches? Do you have like one, or like where can we go?
I don't. The reason I don't is so I used to. This is how long I've been working. So I used to put all my matches up on MySpace.
Oh.
And if you can find the official Justin Andrews MySpace page, there is some matches on there. I think it's myspace.com/Real Sergeant Andrews or something along those lines. It's on there. But a lot of promotions nowadays, they do their own filming. So there's some stuff up on like Vimeo. The Asylum Championship Wrestling's YouTube channel, I think, still exists. There's a ton of footage there. I wrestled a ton of matches. Very sketchy. Top of Texas Pro Wrestling has got some of my stuff. And then there's a local manager, the Games Master, who has his own YouTube channel, which is GM Nation on YouTube, and there's a bunch of my matches on there as well. So I'm kind of all over the internet. It's not hard to find footage of me wrestling, either as Justin Andrews, which is my name, as Sergeant Andrews or Sergeant Piston. I wrestled when I did a military gimmick for a number of years. There's tons of footage of me out there.
I'm sorry, was that Sergeant Piston?
Yes.
That's the greatest name I've ever heard for a professional wrestler.
Well,
that's amazing.
So my very first name in professional wrestling was Jack Piston.
Okay.
And I got that name because I was wrestling a show. I didn't have a gimmick name, and I was in a Napa Auto Parts. I was buying windshield wipers, and I saw something called a Jack Piston, which is part of like a big jack for a car. Obviously runs on a piston. And I just saw this part that said Jack Piston, and I was like, dude, that's it, Jack Piston. So I wrestled as Jack Piston and Sergeant Piston for, like 8-9 years before I just went with my real name.
Wow. That is actually awesome. I'm not, like, saying anything. I really like that name.
Yeah, I mean, I probably would have kept it, but there was the promoter of ACW was like, I don't like that name. Let's do something more real. Because I've always sort of had a more realistic, hard-hitting style, and I was like, well, how about my real name? And he's like, all right, go for it. And there we go.
So we talked about you bouncing around to different territories, and we also talked about how your training before wasn't necessarily, like your first training wasn't up to snuff. Have you found that working at different territories, like because you just came back from Top of Texas, like we have a recent thing to call back to, is it different working in those different territories, or is everything just pretty much same or similar?
Absolutely. So Hawaii was very 80s, over the top, cartoonish, which I still, and you use bits and pieces. It's like a sculpture. And you're taking little bits of clay from everywhere you go, and you're adding to this sculpture that becomes you. I don't do a lot of what I did in Hawaii because most of it sucked. The big thing I do is my lockup. Most guys shoot in real close, which is how you do it in amateur wrestling. And I come out real big and wide. So when I lock up with someone, there's a big smack sound, and I'm putting my shoulders into it. Instead of trying to shoot in and manipulate a hold, I'm trying to grab them and shake them around. That's my carryover from Hawaii. When I was wrestling in the Pacific Northwest, it was a lighter style, but much more high tempo. Very quick, very fast. I'm a big guy, but I take sort of that quickness, that explosive speed from being on the West Coast. In the East Coast is where I really learned how to be a hard-hitting, high impact, which is where I get the bulk of my offense. And then down in Texas is more of an old school, brawling, plotting style. So I wasn't just working at Top of Texas. I was down there because of the military for 3.5 months. And I was at an Air Force base that was right outside the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame in Wichita Falls. If you're a wrestling fan, or especially if you're a wrestler, you have to go to the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. It's the only brick-and-mortar Hall of Fame dedicated purely to professional wrestling. It's history. Excuse me. It's history the whole time you're there. And then I got to train there under Cowboy Johnny Manziel. So I mentioned before that Elias is sort of my favorite trainer and my most trusted advisor, but the knowledge that I gained just in those 3 months that I was working with Cowboy Johnny Manziel was invaluable. He was $1 million education. It really was, because yes, he's an old star from the 70s and 80s, world class, NWA. Yeah, he was a big star. Did multiple tours in Japan. He worked with Andre the Giant. He worked with, everybody from back then, Roddy Piper. I could just go on and on and on. And just his little tips and tricks were just amazing and so valuable for me for my career. I think going anywhere from here in my career is a direct result of training with Johnny Manziel.
That's awesome. How would you, because you described the East Coast, the West Coast, Texas, and you described Hawaii's style of wrestling. How would you describe Colorado, the Midwest?
The great thing about Colorado is we don't have a Colorado style. And you can see that on any show that you go to. For example, we just had, a Colorado Springs wrestling show, Bar Fights Volume 2, and we had the Dot Mob come up from Texas, who are, how those guys aren't working for the WWE right this second, I don't know. It's a travesty that those guys are not under contract. They're that good. It's one of those where you're so psyched to be on a show with them, because as a fan, you want to watch every single member of that crew. So we had those guys. We had our high flyers. We had some of the cartoony action. We had the pirate punks. We had myself and Jimbo Lucas, who are both more similar than we care to admit, even though we're like oil and water, sort of two sides of the same coin. You had Kevin Magoon there, who's another military guy, who's a very technical wrestler. You had Phil Cholo from Lucha Underground, just that Lucha Libre style, with Danny G. They teamed up. They were going to go against each other, which was awesome. Then they teamed up against police brutality. You got a little bit of everything here in Colorado, which is why I think Colorado wrestling is doing so amazing right now. It's in the best place it's been since I first got here in 2010.
You mentioned Kevin Magoon. I was actually present. I was front row center. I was your cameraman for your match at the most recent Primo show. Infamous is what it was called. It was amazing. Just everything about it. You actually hurt me with your clothesline that rattled the rafters.
Yeah. Hilarious. That's what will go down in Primo's history. So I have to give a little shout out. I don't know if she's going to listen to this or not. Hopefully she does. There's Miss Diane Devine, who sits in the front row at every Primo show. She's a wrestling fan for many, 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 many years. She knows Johnny Manziel. She's been to the Hall of Fame. She's a very old school fan. Anytime I can get her out of her seat, which is very, very rare, I know I've done something. And I rewatched some of the tape, and when I hit the lariat, she jumped out of her seat and gave us a standing ovation. So yeah, for sure, I was definitely proud of that. Kevin probably wasn't. I almost took his head off.
I still have to watch the footage that I took to see what made that sound. God,
that was huge. Bicep and his jaw.
So, I gotta ask because that was a match of the night performance. What exactly went into that match? You don't have to pull back any curtain or anything like that, or I can even cut it out later. I just want to know, because that was incredible. You guys trading suplexes and clotheslines. And,
yeah. So Kevin worked here. We were like ships passing in the night. So when I first came here in 2010, he was leaving. So we had never really wrestled each other before. But like I said, he's a military guy. He's a career military. He's Army. I was Marines, Army. Now I'm in the Colorado Air National Guard. So when Doug, the head of Primos, came up and said, "Hey, you guys are wrestling each other tonight," I was like, "Fuck yeah!" we are going to beat the hell out of each other. Because I knew Magoo could take it, and I knew that I could deliver it, and the better man was going to come out on top. Whoever could gut it out a little more, and that's what it was. We both agreed. We have mutual respect, but when we get in there, we are going to do whatever it takes to win. And that's what happens. I was triumphant with the old Semper Suplex, but he easily could have gone either way. I would work him every show if I could. Just, I definitely felt it the next day, especially because I had wrestled the night before at New Era against Jason Knoll, so I was already pretty beat up because Jason's a tough cookie. But yeah, anytime I would take a rematch, I would tag team with him. I would, pleasure to work with, absolutely.
It was beautiful. If you guys want to check that out, I know that match is going up soon. Hopefully on the Primo's YouTube. I have to do some editing on that one. Anywho, we're gonna get to some of the other average guys questions, and then some listener questions and comments.
Excellent.
Jose would like to know, what is your favorite match in the history of professional wrestling?
Okay. I've got two. One is going to be an extremely typical answer, and the other one people are going to be like, huh? And they're both my favorite, so I can't choose between either one. The one is Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Macho Man Randy Savage from WrestleMania 3.
Oh, yes.
WrestleMania 3 is known, of course, for when Hogan body slammed Andre, which was a huge moment. I was, 4 or 5, so I don't remember it live. It would have been closed circuit at the time. Pay-per-view didn't even exist. But I saw it on tape afterwards. That was a big moment, but that match, that's just a clinic. It's fairly long. It wasn't fairly long for the time, but for modern times, it's extremely long. And those guys just don't let up. Just a classic tale of two guys just going at it. They had a great storyline. George the Animal Steel was involved, Miss Elizabeth. It was just incredible. It hits on all cylinders. And then my other most favorite match is from King of Trios, Chikara's King of Trios 2011 or 2012. And it is Manami Toyota, Jigsaw, and Mike Quackenbush versus the Amazing Red and the Maximo Brothers. And if you've never seen that match, you have to. Any wrestling fan has to see that match. It's on Chikaratopia, which is like their streaming service. Manami Toyota is a legend in Japanese women's wrestling. Mike Quackenbush and Jigsaw, phenomenal. Amazing Red, you've seen him in TNA and Ring of Honor as well as the Maximos. And it's just an amazing match. Absolutely amazing. There's no dull spots in it. It's a lot of high impact. And at the end, they pay a great tribute to Sweet and Sour Larry Sweeney, who, big name on the independent scene when I was coming up. I was on a few shows with him. Great dude. And part of my finisher that I use, where I call it the square hammer, it's a neck breaker into a DDT, which you saw in that Kevin McGoon match.
Oh, yeah.
That's the Sweet and Sour Larry Sweeney move. He called it the 68 comeback special. And I do that not to steal from him, but as a tribute to him, because he unfortunately took his own life several years ago. But they paid tribute to him at the end of that match from King of Trios. So, yeah, that's one you got to check out. If you're a wrestling fan, especially if you know who Larry Sweeney is, you're going to get emotional. I get teared up every time I watch it.
Sorry, I'm writing that down real quick so I can watch it. All right. Next one comes from Zach on the show. Zach wants to know, who would you want to work with from the history of wrestling, living or dead?
3. One is unfortunately dead, and that is Hayabusa. He was a big Japanese star in FMW. He did wrestle a couple times in the States, once for ECW. back in the original ECW days. Phenomenal high flyer, great character, awesome looking mask. I was a huge fan of him in high school, and unfortunately he had a mistake in a match and he became paralyzed. And he was starting to regain the use of his feet, and then unfortunately passed away several years ago. So that's number one. Number two is Cowboy Johnny Mantel. Unfortunately, he had a phenomenal career, but he had a phenomenal career when I was a young boy. So those days have passed. I have locked up with him a little bit during training, but I've never actually got to wrestle him. And then, of course, the third one, and this is something that every professional wrestler should have the same answer, and that's Ric Flair.
I actually think that every wrestler has answered that when I talk to them just offhanded. Like one of them who's a regular on our main show, Captain Stevens. He's said that a couple times too.
Yeah. Of course, I know Captain Stevens well. I've wrestled him many times. Wrestled him in Primos. And you can ask him, how the Ric Flair chops from myself felt.
Okay. I do actually want to ask about that because he talks about your chops. Like, I want to know like how you make them hurt so bad. I guess is the main question.
It's just something that happens. My hands are the perfect shape for a chop on almost anyone's chest. And a lot of people will just come through and use their arm, and I don't. I use my shoulders and my core. Anyone who's seen me, you can look at pictures, you can look at my matches. I'm a fairly thick guy, just genetically. My dad is built like brick shit house. That's how my family looked. So I engage a lot of core, and I use my arm almost as a lever and just rotate with the rest of my body. And, I don't do them that much because usually if I'm throwing a chop, I'm behind. And I'm doing it to stun the other guy, to give me a brief second to get my shit together so I can hit him with something else. So it's not like a primary mode of offense, but for it to work, I need it to stun someone. And so I have to do it hard and leave marks. Sorry, guys, over the years.
Well, you like I said, your chops are infamous.
Yeah.
With the guys in the back.
When we get done here, I'll send you a picture, and you can put that up on your site or maybe during the interview. I wrestled a fellow on the East Coast by the name of Ole Tectonic. He's a German guy, real tall and lanky. And he was just beating me down with kicks, drop kicks, and ranas. And I got a hold of him, and, well, you'll see the picture. I'll send it to you. That's probably the worst I've ever done. But he was not feeling good afterwards.
Oh, my God. Well, oh man, I want to stay on the chops, but I've got a couple more things before we cut this. So you show me that picture, and I'll definitely make a comment on it, and I'll post it somewhere where everyone can see it. So you are the Suplex Party. That's who you are now.
Yep, right.
Josh from the show wants to know what is your favorite suplex variant? Like, there's the German. I'll just let you go on that one.
Yeah. Oh man, there's so many great ones. What you'll see me hit more often than anything is verticals and Germans. And the reason for that is because I can use my low center of gravity, and I can hit it on anyone. But those are my favorites. My two favorite suplexes, I know I can't pick a single favorite on any question you're asking me, but would be the exploder, where I'll whip someone into a turnbuckle. They'll hit really hard. I'll throw them so hard that they bounce out of the turnbuckle. I'll catch them halfway across the ring and give them an exploder, which is sort of a overhead belly-to-belly variant. And then, of course, the perfect flex, or the bridging fisherman suplex, which I call the Semper suplex because that's my finisher. It's a cradle suplex, and the reason I use that is I've already hit someone with a ton of suplexes. Their necks wore down, their backs wore down, and now I've got them in a cradle and I'm in a bridge. When I hit it, they're not getting out of it.
I hope Josh is listening, because he was really adamant about learning what your favorite suplex was. I'll send.
I mean, really, all of them. I can hit any suplex. I really can. I work really hard on it. Dragon suplexes, butterfly suplexes, gut wrench, invert suplexes. I mean, I can do it all. But yeah, I can put the exploder out of the turnbuckle and the Semper suplex.
So is that why they call you the Suplex Party? Just because of all of the suplexes that you do?
Yeah. Especially a lot of my Colorado Springs wrestling matches. If you ever get a chance to talk to the convict Jimbo Lucas, I'll hit 5, 6 of them in a row and then go for the pin. I'm not doing it to mock my opponents, but I just want to make sure that their back is so wore out that they physically cannot kick out of the pin.
So Jeffrey Andrew Law wants to know. This is a question while I was retyping it. I wasn't following it, so if I say it incorrectly, please stop me. Besides your family, what is the other biggest influence you have outside the ring to keep you wrestling along with the other things you do?
Oh, man, I do it to impress this guy named Jeffrey Andrew Law. No, I'm kidding. Jeff's actually a friend of mine. We were in Afghanistan together, so that's a really good question. And 2 things. God, here I go again with 2 things.
It's fine.
One is I don't like to be bored. So I'm always driving to do new things because I don't like to sit still. I hate being bored. The other thing is I fear failure more than I desire success. So that pushes me to work extremely hard at whatever I'm doing and put all my effort into whatever I'm doing because I don't want to fail.
All right. So you say that you don't want to be bored. So what else do you do outside the ring? I know that I saw something that you wrote got published.
So that's actually I am an author and a poet. So I do have a full book of poetry that's available on Amazon, and then 2 books are currently available on Amazon. Those are all for Kindle. They're not in print anymore, but the 2 books are about 2 of my 3 deployments to Afghanistan. And then, of course, the book poetry. I've had several poems published. I used to write for a disc golf or frisbee golf, the layman website. I edited a disc golf magazine. I was a contributing article writer. And my latest book is a history of the United States Marine Corps. It's for the Under 1 Hour series. It's a very brief history. An accomplished reader or even a decent reader will be able to read through the whole thing in an hour. It'll give you an overview of the United States Marine Corps. I'm working on a couple other ones for them. I want to do one about the War on Terror and then the history of professional wrestling. I'm a full-time student working on my history degree. I'm in the military. As I mentioned before, I was in the Marines and the Army. In April of 2016, I changed over to the Colorado Air National Guard. So that's the Air Force version of the National Guard. So it's 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks out of the year. But I've been on active orders since June. So I did 3.5 months in Texas, and then I'm on active orders at Buckley Air Force Base up in Aurora, Colorado through January. Let's see. I also teach water aerobics. I'm a swim instructor, personal trainer, collect comic books. I love to play disc golf. which you'd be surprised how many wrestlers also play disc golf. Shout out to Chewy Martinez. What's up, Pudo? When are we going to play? Our schedules never work out. I'm really into tattooing. I can't draw, so I have other people draw on me permanently. But I'm a big tattoo enthusiast, comic book enthusiast as well. I go to a lot of comic conventions. I have a massive comic book collection. Yeah, that about covers it.
That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I told you I don't like to be bored. Vintage video games. I love to play retro video games. So right now my jam is I just got a fully refurbished the new backlit screen Sega Game Gear. So I've been playing a lot of Sega Game Gear, a lot of Game Boy Advance. But yeah, Sega Dreamcast is my all-time favorite video game console. So play a lot of retro games.
The amount of stuff that you do just because you don't like to be bored, it's daunting to me. I work a day job, go home and talk about wrestling. That's all I do. Oh my god.
Yeah, I do a lot. I mean, I write every single night. Usually I get up early. Usually get about 5-6 hours of sleep. Get up early, hit the gym. Then I go do my 12-hour shift at Buckley. Whenever I get a break there for lunch or whatever, I'll be emailing clients, checking in with clients for my personal training business. I'm always scouting eBay for new games and new comics. Yeah, it's busy. It's busy. I have 2 daughters and a wife and a daughter's boyfriend and 4 dogs. So.
Gigantic family.
I like to stay busy.
the army of Andrews.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man. Well, we've reached the end of what I have had prepared for this. Are there any shout outs you want to give out other than the ones you've already given?
Yeah. I don't know how many of them are still are listening to this, but anyone who's ever booked me on a show, I can't thank you enough. So recently, that's going to be Joe McDougall, Chris Chavez Sr., Joey Kincaid. I could just go on and on and on about all the people that I owe thanks to: Jack Logan, Pete Pinkerton, Flex Wheeler, Brandon Bishop, Blind Mike. I could go on for days with shout-outs to people. And anyone who I've ever wrestled with. Man, all the wrestlers I've been in the ring with, some who aren't here with us anymore, anyone who's ever stepped in that ring with me, I owe them my thanks. And especially, very special shout-out to my good friend Danger Dean. I know he's coming back to CSW at our next show, and he's going to take on Marty the Boss in a loser-leave sound match. Dean and I go way, way back. I've been in the ring with him more than a few times, and it's always an honor and a pleasure working with him, and I'm so excited. He hasn't been at any CSW shows in a while, so I'm so psyched that he's back. And you all should be too. So come out to that show. It's on December 23rd at the Plain Field in Colorado Springs. And come see the return of Danger Dean. You won't be disappointed.